Hi, I'm Joan Cartan-Hansen. Thank you for joining for this Web Extra conversation about poultry regulation here in Idaho. We have a number of people on the phone. Let's go ahead and get to our callers. I believe Nancy, you've been holding the longest. Nancy in
Yes,
Sandpoint.
hi there.
Hi there, go ahead.
Well, I think possibly you've overlooked a couple of main positions, as far as I'm concerned anyway. I got in late. But the cruelty in which those chickens are being put through is, it's animal cruelty as far as I'm concerned, because they're cannibalizing themselves. And I remember several years ago they went through different things on how cattle were killed in the slaughterhouse and different things, but they're putting these... I've seen cannibalism with chickens, and that doesn't leave a very good impression for wanting their eggs either. But I think that there should be some kind of legislation or otherwise to protect the chickens as well.
So include that in any proposed regulations.
Something should be done, yes, because they've done it as far as slaughterhouses are concerned, but they're doing this with chickens, and I've seen cannibalism in chickens. And even if you put raw meat down there for them to cannibalize one, they're going through. But they're too crowded, they're overcrowded, and I doubt very much if you're getting any eggs out of them.
All right, thank you for your call.
Thank you.
Let's go to Jay in Rupert. Jay.
Yes, my question is, the economy of the area, the needed jobs in the Burley Rupert area, this would be a good impact. Some of the issues of the water, the what to do with the waste is a secondary issue, where employment's the major issue. How do you guys feel on that?
Okay, hold on. We'll ask the panel. What kind of jobs are we talking about? What's the economic impact?
Well, a broiler facility, if a broiler plant comes to Idaho, enough chickens would have to come to support that plant. And a typical size of plant would be about 8 million birds would have to be raised in barns somewhere in Idaho to support that plant. And a plant of that size with all the supporting structure, we're talking, from the chicken raising to the individuals working in the processing plant to all the support, management, et cetera, is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000 to 1,200 jobs. And that does not include the secondary jobs, which are all the jobs that are created from all that new employment. You're going to have additional commercial development. You're going to have additional retail. And so there's going to be a lot of secondary jobs, which typically the ratio is 2 to 1. So, a plant of this size, if you're getting 1,000 direct jobs, you can expect to see another 1,000 to 2,000 indirect jobs associated with that facility. So it's a huge impact economically for the area.
But do you agree that economic impact should supersede water quality?
No, and I think, sustained economic development in rural Idaho has to have an element of protecting the environment. I don't think, I'm hoping we're out of the phase where economic development comes at the cost of water quality and air quality in communities across Idaho.
And how do you balance that when you start drafting legislation, protecting water and air quality enough, but still allowing for economic development?
Well, I think it all has to go there. Courtney's exactly right. We're past the phase when we can just overlook anybody's interest. To sacrifice the environment to be financially successful is not sustainable. So from my perspective, that's exactly what I look for, is to safely manage the environment, to safely manage the animals, and to appropriately manage the animals, and going back using the science to do that, though.
Okay, thanks for your call. And let's go to Tom in Haley. Tom.
Hello.
Hi, go ahead.
I just want to offer an informed observation. I've spent some time on the eastern shore of Maryland, where there are a number of large factory chicken facilities, and it's just awful. I mean, you drive by on the freeway and you see these things half a mile away across some fields, and if the wind's not blowing the opposite direction, you just want to gag. And I can't see why we would want to have these come to Idaho. I mean, they provide low-wage jobs and ruin the quality of life. Take a drive on the freeway down the eastern shore of Maryland, and you'd have no question what your opinion of this idea would be.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. I appreciate your call. Let's try Sandy in Boise. Sandy. Hi. Go ahead.
Yes. I'm concerned about the air quality and the water quality as well, but in Idaho, how far away from homes can these facilities be placed? And then what recourse does a homeowner have if the facility is, say, downwind, so to speak?
Okay. Well, currently there are no regulations along that. That's the issue at hand. There are limited. You do. I keep saying that there are no, and you keep flinching when I say that. For a certain size, there are.
Well, at the state level,
right.
The counties still oversee siting of these facilities.
Right.
The state is not taking a siting role.
Right.
They're taking a siting role as far as the design of the facility, where are those waste storage structures, et cetera, located, those site-specific things. But as far as where should these facilities be sited, that's a local land use issue. That's the county decides, what zone is appropriate for those facilities, what setbacks are appropriate for those facilities. And I just want to emphasize, a couple of things that has been said is, with the nutrient management planning requirement that are in these facilities, there's kind of a misconception that with livestock operations, and that's any livestock operation, that when they come to town, they're just adding to the nutrient pool that's in the area. And when these facilities follow the nutrient management plans and implement these nutrient management plans, what they're doing is displacing the commercial nutrients that were used on that farm or would be used on that farm with the organic nutrients. They're not adding to the system, you're actually displacing it. I've seen a lot of technical documents, particularly done by the regulated industries or the regulatory authority, that made the assumption that, if it takes this much fertilizer to grow a corn crop, then when you put the dairy here, you're just adding that much more to it. And that's a false way to look at it, because that's not how it works. They actually will use the organic nutrients, and then they have to balance with the crop needs with the commercial products.
Although if you bring in 8 million chickens, there's a lot of waste with 8 million chickens.
Well, there will be litter with those facilities, but they would have to follow a nutrient management plan. The one thing with the chicken litter, and particularly with water quality, is there is no liquid waste stream, so there really isn't, and particularly when they're enclosed in enclosed barns, you're not exposed to the weather, to the rain, to the snow, and those sorts of things. And so the ability for that material to be leached into our groundwater or to run off into surface waters is greatly diminished because that resource is protected.
And in advance,
go ahead.
In advance, if we do this right in advance, there's nothing saying that we can't create a nutrient management plan that requires those nutrients to go outside that county, to go to another county. There are many things we can do to manage those nutrients if we do it in advance. But if we wait until after the fact, then there's very little that we can do. And we're not going to encourage 30-year-old chicken facilities to come to Idaho. We're going to encourage brand new ones to come with new technologies.
Right.
Matthew in Caldwell. Matthew.
Hi. First of all, I'd like to say that I think the job situation would be great. A job is a job, whether it's low wage or not. And natural fertilizers or using this for pellet fuel would be great. But my main question is, would they be allowed to clip beaks and do the battery caging, and would they use a lot of hormones? And that would really base decide my support for the question.
Okay.
Topic.
Is that something that you've looked at in terms of regulation, including animal well-being, set it up in advance? Is that going to be an essential part of this process?
That would not have been a part of this legislation. This was the legislation was strictly had to do with defining and regulating the sizes of facilities, and really didn't get into the animal welfare issue at all. That would have been, we were coming close to that with the animal cruelty legislation itself.
But do you see it, if we're starting now to craft something, do you see that being a part of the?
I have no doubt that it'll be part of the discussion.
Okay. Thank you, Matthew. We've got one more caller, and then we'll wrap things up. Jim in Coeur d'Alene. Jim.
Hello.
Hi.
Thanks for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
I not only see this as a detriment to the environment, air quality, water quality, but you're talking about low-paid jobs. I've heard a couple people talk on this. And that's basically what you're going to have, and that's going to have an impact on all your counties as far as your government subsidy programs for those people. I've seen it happen, and I don't have a question. I would be opposed to this.
Okay. Thank you for your call. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
We're almost out of time for this web extra, and I had asked a question at the end of the show of why should people who don't necessarily live in an area where you would find typically cite a large-scale poultry factory farm, and I think the two of you had a chance to answer, but I didn't have the chance the two of you to answer. Why don't we give you, Mr. Thompson, a chance? Why should someone who doesn't necessarily live in a place where there might be a poultry farm cited care about setting up regulations for this industry?
Well, I think, regulations are just that. Regulations is a control mechanism for whatever industry it is, whether it's manufacturing or whether it's agriculture. And we have to be wise in setting up those regulations that we're not handcuffing the individuals that are trying to operate these businesses and making it so that they're not financially viable. Because at the end of the day, a facility that's not financially viable is not going to have the means to do things and take care of business in the way that all of us would like to see them do. When facilities are making money and they're profitable, then they can, make sure that they address the issues that are addressed. And the problem with regulation sometimes is if we go too far, then we really handcuff those producers. And I just want to emphasize that our agricultural producers do care about the environment. They have supported the regulations that are in place right now in Idaho, our dairies and our feedlots. They're the ones that are there working every day to make sure that water quality is protected and air quality. And so we have to, it's important to be careful that we do listen to their interests and make sure that we're understanding their needs in these processes instead of sitting on the sidelines and dictating how they need to conduct their business instead of engaging them to be educated to make wise decisions in the process.
Well, I think people up in Coeur d'Alene, people in Emmett, everywhere in this state need to be aware this can happen in your backyard. It's not, even though they're looking at eastern Idaho right now in Burley, they were looking at putting a nuclear power plant down in Payette, Emmett area. There's a lot of bluegrass farmers up in the Coeur d'Alene, Rathdrum Plains who are going out of business because it's not viable for them to have those crops anymore. That's a lot of land, and that could be very appealing to a poultry facility or a swine facility that wants to come in. And so I think that we need to have good regulations in place for all industries because it could be in your backyard. It doesn't matter if you live in eastern Idaho or not. There could be one in your backyard in the next 10 years. So.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate we've run out of time. I appreciate you all joining in on the discussion.
Thank you, John.
And thank you for joining us for this Web Extra.